Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Monday, December 8th, 2025. We'll start the show with college football today and then look on the college football playoff final rankings, NFL, college basketball, NBA, NHL, soccer on this day, news and notes, and best bet. We'll begin with college football today, like I stated earlier. Obviously, those are bigger games, and then we'll look at the playoff rankings. All right, so Friday night, the Conference USA Championship game. Kennesaw State over Jacksonville State, 19-15. The American Championship, number 20 Fleeing over number 24 North Texas, 34-21. Sunbelt, number 25 James Madison over Troy, 31-14. Mountain West, Boise State over UNLV, 38-21. And then Saturday, Big Ten Championship game. Number 2 Indiana beats number 1 Ohio State 13-10. SEC Championship game. Number 3 Georgia over number 9 Alabama 28-7. Big 12 number 4 Texas Tech over number 11 BYU 34-7. ACC Championship. Duke upsets number 17 Virginia 27-20 in overtime. And the MAC Western Michigan over Miami of Ohio 23-13. All right. The college football playoff bracket was unveiled on Sunday afternoon. So the number 1 seed, of course, going to the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day, the Indiana Hoosiers. The number 2 seed going to the Cotton Bowl on New Year's Eve. Number 2, Ohio State. The number 3 seed going to the Sugar Bowl, Georgia. Their number 4 seed going to the Orange Bowl, Texas Tech. Your 5 seed hosting a game on December 20th, Oregon Ducks. Your 6 seed hosting a game on December 20th, the Ole Miss Rebels. Your 7 seed hosting a game on December 20th, Texas A&M. Your 8 seed hosting a game on Friday night, December 19th, the Oklahoma Sooners. And they will be playing against the 9 seed, the Alabama Crimson Tide, who I don't think deserve to be in the playoff. Your 10th seed, the Miami Hurricanes, are going to A&M. Traveling to Ole Miss, number 11 Tulane, who played them already this year. And your 12 seed playing Oregon, James Madison. So that's your college football playoff bracket. Good on the committee for picking 2 group of 5 teams over overrated 5-loss Duke. The ACC already has a representative. It is a deserving one, the Miami Hurricanes. To me, my biggest issue is Notre Dame being left out and Bama getting in. I think that Alabama does not belong in because I know they have some sexy wins, but they have 3 losses. They got killed in the SEC championship game. They lost to a bad Florida State team. And now they lost to Oklahoma on their home field. And Oklahoma's good. They deserve to be in the playoff. I get it. That's not an awful resume loss. But the quarterback was really bad in that game and turned the ball over a bunch of times. I know the metrics are like, oh, Alabama outplayed them, but the quarterback was bad. But they lost the fucking game. And they lost to terrible Florida State in week 1 of the season. So, yeah, I think this team's a little overrated, especially with how they looked against Georgia. And I know they won at Georgia. That was a great win, but that was when Alabama peaked. Alabama peaked for a little bit, and now they're meh. And I don't know why the hell they're favored at Oklahoma. That's because they're Alabama. They get the Chiefs treatment in the betting market. That's why. And Notre Dame belonged and not Bama. Notre Dame, the reason why they didn't get in is because they have no good wins. And they lost their first 2 games of the year to Miami and to Texas A&M, who are both in the playoff by a combined 4 points. But they didn't beat anybody good, is the problem. Purdue, Arkansas, Boise State. Some may say that's a good win. I think Boise's a little overrated, even though that's a conference champ. NC State, USC, Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford. Pitt and SC are their best wins, but Bama's win over Georgia and their win over Vanderbilt are better than those games. And Bama, in spite of those losses, but my point is that Notre Dame lost to two very good teams that are in the playoff by a combined 4 points. And actually, their wins over SC and Pitt are being overlooked. But Bama just has the better wins. At Georgia, home Vandy, home Tennessee, at Mizzou. So those are their good wins. And Notre Dame also beat Boise and Navy. But I don't know if those teams are in the final rankings. But comparing resumes, because Bama lost to Florida State, I think Notre Dame deserves to be in. That's, to me, the like if Bama was 11-1 with the loss being against Oklahoma, and they lost that bad today, then I'd say okay. But that Florida State loss is so bad. And I mean so bad. That team is so bad. And that team was the most overrated, undefeated team I've ever seen. And they make the playoff, and now they're a dumpster fire program. And then the rest of the final rankings. So Notre Dame's first team out, second team out, BYU. And then the rest. Texas, Vandy, Utah, that's through 15. 16 through 20, USC, Arizona, Michigan, Virginia, Tulane. Tulane was 20. And then James Madison's 24. And then Houston, 21. Georgia Tech, 22. Iowa, 23. JMU, like I said, 24. North Texas, 25. So Navy's not even in the final rankings, and neither is Boise State. That hurt Notre Dame's case. This isn't the I do see why they left out Notre Dame, but because of how bad that Florida State loss that Bama had was, in my opinion, Bama doesn't deserve to be in. And they have, like I said, 3 losses, and one of them being to one of the most overrated programs in the country. And everyone got all excited when they beat them. So we'll look at the bowl games on a different show. We got to get going back to the NFL. We'll go over the games from yesterday and look ahead to Monday Night Football. And we'll talk more about the college football stuff and news and notes, of course. Dolphins over the Jets, 34-10. Steelers over the Ravens, 27-22. Saints over the Bucs, 24-20. That was a big upset. Jags over the Colts, 36-19. Titans over the Browns, 31-29. Vikings over the Commanders, 31-zip. Seahawks over the Falcons, 37-9. Bills over the Bengals, 39-34. Broncos over the Raiders, 24-17. Packers over the Bears, 28-21. Rams over the Cardinals, 45-17. And the Texans over the Chiefs, 20-10 on Sunday Night Football. All right, tonight, 8:15, ABC and ESPN, Eagles-Chargers. Fun game. We'll see about Justin Herbert and whether he plays or not. If he's there, I have Chargers 3.5 total, 43 and 7/10. If not, Eagles 1.5, same total. And it's Eagles soon after 41.5. I really think that this line stinks. But there's also the Herbert might not play case. I will give out Chargers plus 2.5 plus 118 on the show, but if it's Trey Lance, then that goes to the over automatically, especially and that number's gonna go down if it's announced that it's Trey Lance. Okay, now we'll move on to college basketball from the weekend. We'll go over the results and look ahead to a small window for tonight. Friday, Music City Madness, number 11 Gonzaga over number 18 Kentucky, 94-59. Bethune over SC State, 80-59. High Point over NJIT, 89-72. ETSU over South Alabama, 91-65. VC over Sanford, 83-57. Quinnipiac over Iona, 89-68. Lafayette over Mercier, 79-71. Brown over Bryant, 75-56. Siena over Niagara, 83-54. St. Peter's over Canisius, 69-57. Marist over Mount St. Mary, 64-56. Manhattan over Fairfield, 70-66. Number 5, UConn over East Texas A&M, 83-59. UAB over Drake, 74-69. Xavier over Cincinnati, 79-74. McNeese over Northwestern State, 92-54. Notre Dame over TCU, now 87-85 in OT, so best bet won from Friday. San Jose State over San Diego, 86-69. All right, Saturday was a big sleep. Number 10, Iowa State over number 1, Purdue, 81-58. That was a surprise. Number 4, Duke over number 7, Michigan State, 66-60. Georgia Tech over Monmouth, 79-67. BC over New Haven, 67-63. Providence over Rhode Island, 90-71. Virginia over Dayton, 86-73. Miami over Southern Miss, 88-64. UMBC over Bucknell, 73-66. Richmond over Old Dominion, 86-77. Utah Valley over Bowling Green, 82-71. Miami of Ohio over Maine, 93-61. NC State over UNC Asheville, 75-63. Big 5 Classic 5th place game. LaSalle over Drexel, 69-64. Western Michigan over SIU Edwardsville, 83-73. James Madison over Norfolk State, 68-67. Delaware State over Delaware, 75-72 in overtime. Coastal over Winthrop, 88-84. Georgia Southern over Gardner-Webb, 88-84. Wow, that's the same score. Presbyterian over Morgan State, 80-72. SCF State over Western Carolina, 78-67. Ohio State over Northwestern, 86-82. Tennessee Tech over West Georgia, 87-59. South Carolina over Stetson, 82-51. FIU over Jacksonville, 88-65. American over Maryland Eastern, 78-60. Wisconsin over Marquette, 96-76. Liberty over Coppin State, 92-50. Boise State over Butler, 77-68. Youngstown State over IU Indy, 78-55. Detroit Mercy over Cleveland State, 71-59. Purdue Fort Wayne over Northern Kentucky, 79-77. St. Bonaventure over Buffalo, 77-69. Duquesne over Stony Brook, 84-75. Holy Cross over Fordham, 70-69. Furman over Harvard, 79-69. Number 6, Louisville over number 22, Indiana, 87-78. Loyola Chicago over Princeton, 73-68. Kennesaw State over Georgia State, 92-69. Big Sky Summit, Idaho over South Dakota State, 84-81. Oakland over Toledo, 98-97. Tulsa over Missouri State, 98-74. Murray State over Bellarmine, 81-68. Virginia Tech over George Mason, 73-62. Number 3, Michigan over Rutgers, 101-60. Number 25, Arkansas over Fresno State, 82-58. NCAT over NC Central, 69-54. Elon over Wofford, 73-52. Ohio over Marshall, 88-81. UMass over UMass Lowell, 80-60. Iowa over Maryland, 83-64. Wyoming over Dartmouth, 93-80. UNC Wilmington over Louisiana, 70-63. Abilene Christian over New Mexico State, 77-69. Western Kentucky over Evansville, 80-79. UNC Greensboro over East Carolina, 82-78. Lemoyne over Binghamton, 78-63. Akron over Tulane, 88-71. Seton Hall over Kansas State, 78-67. Longwood over Morgan State, 84-80. Nichols over Incarnate Word, 74-67. Big 5 Classic, St. Joe's over Temple, 70-69. That was the third place game of the Big 5 Classic. Southeast Missouri over Chattanooga, 74-70. Baylor loses at Memphis, 78-71. Omaha over Portland State, 60-55. Big Sky Summit. Vermont over Pepperdine, 65-56. Oregon State over Southern Utah, 81-70. Big Sky Summit. Eastern Washington over KC, 90-66. Sam Houston over Texas Southern, 82-70. Colorado State over Colorado, 91-86. Cal over Pacific, 67-61. LI over Lehigh, 87-82. Columbia over Albany, 93-65. Washington over number 24 USC, 84-76. UCLA over Oregon, 74-63. Big Sky Summit, Idaho State over Denver, 93-79. Holiday Hoops, Wake over West Virginia, 75-66. George Washington over William & Mary, 99-86. Houston Christian over New Orleans, 85-76. New Hampshire over BU, 88-82 in OT. A&M Corpus Christi over Lamar, 57-49. Utah over Cal Baptist, 91-85. UC Riverside over Cal Poly, 88-84. Big Five Classic Championship, Villanova over Penn, 90-63. Colangelo, Oklahoma State over Grand Canyon, 84-78. Houston Hoops, number 8, Houston over Florida State, 82-67. Music City Madness, number 14, Illinois over number 13, Tennessee, 75-62. Number 23, St. John's over Ole Miss, 63-58. Big Sky Summit, Montana over North Dakota, 79-75. Big Sky Summit, North Dakota State over Northern Arizona, 69-68. Big Sky Summit, Oral Roberts over Montana State, 72-68. Bradley over Northern Illinois, 84-55. Wichita State over Northern Iowa, 74-69 in OT. Milwaukee over Robert Morris, 74-72. Illinois State over Chicago State, 95-53. Big Sky Summit, Northern Colorado over South Dakota, 89-87 OT. Lindenwood over Eastern Illinois, 82-74. DePaul over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 76-72. New Mexico over Santa Clara, 98-71. Santa Barbara over Bakersfield, 109-84. UC San Diego over Long Beach State, 80-74. Arkansas State over Little Rock, 90-78. Number 2, Arizona over Tony Auburn, 97-68. Colangelo, Arizona State over Oklahoma State, or Oklahoma, 86-70. UC Irvine over Cal State Northridge, 85-71. And Hawaii over Fullerton, 69-59. Sunday the 7th. Navy over Air Force, 61-56. Number 21, Kansas over Missouri, 80-60. Indiana State over Southern Indiana, 77-55. Big Sky Summit, St. Thomas over Weber State, 88-65. Merrimack over Fairfield, 74-63. Northeastern over Central Connecticut, 73-56. Number 12, Alabama over UTSA, 97-55. Texas Rio Grande over Austin Peay, 63-50. St. Mary's over Davidson, 70-61. Iona over Sacred Heart, 81-69. FA over Florida Gulf Coast, 81-76. Utah State over Charlotte, 78-53. Quinnipiac over Ryder, 72-58. Yale over UIC, 80-66. St. Peter's over Niagara, 71-43. Siena over Canisius, 74-52. Marist over Manhattan, 80-68. Radford over St. Francis, 89-56. USLBM Coast to Coast, number 19, Texas Tech over LSU, 82-58. Stephen F. Austin over UO Monroe, 76-96. Tennessee Martin over Alabama State, 74-64. St. Louis over Central Michigan, 107-65. San Fran over Mississippi State, 65-62. UCF over Towson, 86-61. UNLV over Stanford, 75-71. Hofstra over Pitt, 80-73. Belmont over Middle Tennessee, 83-62. Northwestern State over Southeast Louisiana, 76-68. Number 16, North Carolina over Georgetown, 81-61. Lipscomb over Alabama A&M, 92-58. Nevada over Washington State, 78-64. Nebraska over Creighton, 70-50 or 71-50. Wright State over Green Bay, 86-58. Hoops Hype, SMU over Texas A&M, 93-80 in OT. USLBM Coast to Coast, TCU over North Texas, 65-55. East Texas A&M over Central Arkansas, 75-68. Sanford over Cornell, 93-90. Seattle over UTEP, 75-68. And number 11, Gonzaga over North Florida, 109-58. All right, only 6 games tonight. 6 o'clock, Lafayette Penn. My line is Penn by 9. And it is 6.5, 151. I'll lay it with Penn. 7 o'clock, SC State, Charleston Southern. I have Southern 15 3/4. It's 10.5, 153. I'll lay it with Charleston Southern. Grambling Southern Miss at 8. My line is Southern Miss 6 3/4. It's 8.5 and 141. I'll go over. Southern Texas, SEC Network. My line is Texas 16 1/4, and it's 21.5, 155. I'll take Southern to cover. Mississippi Valley State, Kansas State. My line is Kansas State 32.5, and it's 38.5, 159. I'll take Miss Valley State to cover. And last but not least, Incarnate Word New Orleans. I have Incarnate Word 9.5, and it is 1.5, 149. I'll lay it with Incarnate Word. Okay, now we'll move on to the NBA. We'll go over the results from the weekend, and we'll look ahead to tonight's only 3 games tonight. Friday. Celtics over the Lakers, 126-105. Magic over the Heat, 105-106. Nuggets over the Hawks, 134-133. Cavs over the Spurs 130-117. Pistons over the Blazers 122-116. Knicks over the Jazz 146-112. Hornets over the Raptors 111-86. Pacers over the Bulls 120-105. Rockets over the Suns 117-98. Grizzlies over the Clippers 107-98. Sixers over the Bucks 116-101. And the Thunder over the Mavs 132-111. Saturday, Nets over the Pelicans 119-101. Hawks over the Wizards 131-116. Warriors over the Cavs 99-94. Pistons over the Bucks 124-112. Kings over the Heat 127-111. T-Wolves over the Clippers 109-106. And the Mavs over the Rockets 122-109. And then Sunday, Knicks over the Magic 106-100. Celtics over the Raptors 121-113. Nuggets over the Hornets 115-106. Grizzlies over the Blazers 119-96. Warriors over the Bulls 123-91. Lakers over the Sixers 112-108. And the Thunder over the Jazz 131-101. And then tonight, only 3 games, 7 o'clock, Kings Pacers. I have the Pacers 7 1/4, total 232. And the 5th. And it is 4 and 234.5. I'm gonna lay the 4 at Indiana. 7:30 on Peacock. Suns Blaze or the T-Wolves. Suns and T-Wolves 19.5, total 232 and 13.20. And it's 8 and 222.5. I'm laying the 8 with Minnesota. No Booker or Jalen Green. I don't know why that line is that low. And then 8 o'clock Spurs Pelicans. I have the Spurs by 4, total 234 and 9.20. And it's 9.5, 237.5. I'm gonna take the Pelicans getting 9.5. Okay, now move on to hockey. We'll go over results from the weekend, and we will look ahead to tonight. Friday, Golden Knights over the Devils 3-0. Stars over the Sabres 4-1. Stars over the Sharks 4-1. Mammoth over the Canucks 4-1. Ducks over the Capitals 4-3 shootout. All right, Saturday, Avs over the Rangers 3-2 OT. Panthers over the Jackets 7-6 OT. Bruins over the Devils 4-1. Habs over the Leafs 2-1 shootout. Blues over the Sens 2-1. Isles over Lightning 2-0. Canes over the Preds 6-0. Flames over the Mammoth 2-0. Kings over the Blackhawks 6-0. Oilers over the Jets 6-2. Canucks over the Wild 4-2. Red Wings over the Kraken 4-3. And then yesterday, Abs over the Flyers 3-2. Panthers over the Isles 4-1. Sharks over the Canes 4-1. Stars over the Pens 3-2 shootout. Golden Knights over the Rangers 3-2 OT. Rangers should have won that game in regulation. There was a bad call at the end. It led to Vegas tying the game. Blues over the Habs 4-3. Caps over the Jackets 2-0. And the Ducks over the Blackhawks 7-1. All right, tonight's game, 7:30 NHL Network, Lightning Maple Leafs. Lightning minus 126, Leafs plus 106, over under 6.5, minus 10 each way. Lightning minus 1.5 plus 186, Leafs plus 1.5 minus 235. That's a hard one. I'm going to go under 6.5 minus 110. 9 o'clock, Kings Mammoth. Mammoth minus 114, Kings minus 105, over under 5.5, overs minus 104, unders minus 118. Kings plus 1.5 is minus 280, Mammoth minus 1.5 plus 220. I'm going to go with the Mammoth at home minus 114. Sabres Flames. Pick a minus 110 each way, over under 6.5, overs plus 114, unders minus 140. Sabres plus 1.5 is minus 265, Flames minus 1.5 plus 210. I'm going with the Sabres on the road minus 110. Don't feel good about it though. I think the Flames are awful. Red Wings Canucks. Red Wings minus 128, Canucks plus 106, over under 6.5, overs minus 102, unders minus 120. Red Wings minus 1.5 plus 186, Canucks plus 1.5 minus 235. I'm going to go with the over at minus 102. And last but not least, Wild Kraken. Wild minus 134, Kraken plus 112, over under 5.5, overs minus 102, unders minus 118. Wild minus 1.5 plus 186, Kraken plus 1.5 minus 235. That's a hard one. I'm going to go with over 5.5 at minus 102. Okay, now move on to soccer. We'll go over the results from the weekend and today and look ahead a little bit to tomorrow. All right, Friday. Real Oviedo Mallorca 0-0 draw in La Liga, Bundesliga. Magnum Block over Mainz 1-0. French League 1. Brest over AS Monaco 1-0. Lille over Marseille 1-0. Dutch Eredivisie FC Groningen over Excelsior 2-0. ELC Borough over Hull City 4-1. Saturday. EPL, Aston Villa over Arsenal 2-1. AFC Bournemouth, Chelsea 0-0 draw. Everton over Nottingham Forest 3-0. Man City over Sunderland 3-0. Newcastle over Burnley 2-1. Tottenham over Brentford 2-0. Leeds Liverpool 3-3 draw. La Liga, Villarreal over Getafe 2-0. Alaves over Real Sociedad 1-0. Barcelona over Real Betis 3-5. Athletic Club over Atletico Madrid 1-0. Bundesliga, Heidenheim over FC Freiburg 2-1. Augsburg over Bayern Leverkusen 2-0. FC Cologne St. Pauli 1-1 draw. Bayern Munich over VfB Stuttgart 5-0. VfL Wolfsburg over FC Union Berlin 3-0. RB Leipzig over Eintracht Frankfurt 6-0. Serie A, Sassuolo over Fiorentina 3-1. Inter over Como 4-0. And Verona over Atalanta 3-1. French League 1, Lens over Nantes 2-1. Toulouse over Strasbourg 1-0. PSG over Rennes 5-0. Dutch Eredivisie, Heerenveen loses to PSV Eindhoven 2-0. Ajax over Fortuna 3-1. Heracles Telstar 1-1 draw. Feyenoord over PC Volley 6-1. ELC, Charlton Portsmouth 0-0 draw. Blackburn over Sheffield Wednesday 1-0. Leicester City over Derby County 3-0. Watford over Norwich 3-2. Mull over Bristol City 1-0. Ipswich over Coventry City 3-0. Preston North End Wrexham 1-1 draw. Queen's Park over West Brom 3-1. Sheffield United over Stoke City 4-0. Southampton over Birmingham City 3-1. Swansea City over Oxford United 2-1. Women's Super League Arsenal over Liverpool 2-1. Liga MX, Toluca Monterrey, Toluca wins 3-0. Tied on aggregate, Toluca advanced for being the higher seed. Tigres Cruz Azul 1-1 draw. Tied on aggregate, and Cruz Azul wins on away goals. Weird rules. And MLS, Inter Miami over Vancouver 3-1 to win the MLS Cup. So Messi wins the MLS Cup. So that's another thing to add to Lionel Messi's resume. And Miami's a well-deserved champion. All right, Sunday. Crystal Palace over Fulham 2-1. Brighton Hove West Ham 1-1 draw. La Liga Elche over Girona 3-0. Valencia Sevilla 1-1 draw. Espanyol over Real Valenciano 1-0. Celta Vigo over Real Madrid 2-0. Bundesliga Hamburg SV over Winter 3-2. And Dortmund over TSG 2-0. Serie A Cremonese over Lecce 2-0. Cagliari Reyes Roma 1-0. Lazio Bologna 1-1 draw. Napoli over Juventus 2-1. French League 1 Angers over Nice 1-0. Ajax over Metz 3-1. La Havre Paris FC 0-0 draw. Lorient over Lyon 1-0. Dutch Eredivisie FC 20 FC Utrecht 1-1 draw. AC Alkmaar Go Ahead Eagles 2-2 draw. NAC Nijmegen over FC Volendam 3-2. Sparta over NAC Breda 1-0. Super League Man City over Leicester City 3-0. Brighton over London City 1-0. Man United over West Ham 2-1. Tottenham over Aston Villa 2-1. Everton over Chelsea 1-0. Scottish Premiership Hearts over Celtic 2-1. And then today, going on now, Wolverhampton, Man United, EPL. La Liga going on now, Osasuna, Levante. In Serie A, Torino, AS Milan. And then two finals, Parma over Pisa 1-0. And Genoa over Udinese 2-1. And then tomorrow, I want to pick a couple Champions League games really quickly. 10:30, Kairat Almaty and Olympiacos. Olympiacos minus 220, Kairat 6-1. The draws plus 350. Under 2.5 goals plus 108. Bayern Munich and Sporting CP. Bayern minus 500, Sporting CP 13-1. The draw 6-1. I'm going to go with under 3.5 goals at minus 112. In a Women's Champions League game, I'm going to pick real quick. St. Polten and Juventus. Juventus is 9-1 favorites. St. Polten 19-1. The draws plus 750. I'm going to go over 3.5 goals at plus 120. All right, so there you have it for soccer. Now move on to On This Day. We have a couple to do. We'll start on Saturday, and obviously this is brought to you by All Sports News. This date in history, December 6th. 2023, the New York Yankees acquire Juan Soto. That was the big splash at the winter meetings. That was a trade that a lot of people thought was going to happen. And it did. And ultimately, he wanted to play for the other team in town. And he helped them to go to the World Series last year. 2013, Mariners signed Robinson Cano. That was a big deal. I remember being in absolute shock that he left the Yankees, and it was a big deal. And that really put a sting into that offseason in 2013-14. And that 2014 team was an absolute flop. All those Jeters last year. They went 84-78, and they signed all those guys. And the offense was just a disappointment that year. And a lot of those guys were just kind of washed. But it was more of the Teixeiras, and they relied too much on old Jeter. And there was too much nepotism with washed up Jeter in his last year. And their pitching was a little overrated that year. And then it turned out the guys they lost were more important than they realized. And and that was the year A-Rod was suspended, and he was missed. If they had A-Rod that year, ironically enough, they probably would have been better. Because that next year, A-Rod came back and was awesome, and they made the playoffs. So, the what if of that 2014 team was, if they had A-Rod, they're probably better. Amazingly as that sounds. 2016 Red Sox acquire Chris Sale. Big trade at the time. Helped them win a World Series. Now he's on the Braves. 2013 Texans fire Gary Kubiak. Gary Kubiak did an admirable job, but they had the year from hell that year, and obviously Texans dysfunctional ownership make that panicky move. And then ultimate Gary Kubiak goes to Denver. 2021 Miami hires Mario Cristobal. That turned out to be a good hire, as he's doing a good job with them. They're in the playoff. 2013 Mets signed Curtis Granderson. That was another guy on the Yankees that turned out to be a bigger loss on that 2014 team than they thought. Curtis Granderson helped the Mets make the World Series in 15. 2013, Washington hires Chris Peterson. That was a good hire. And then that just didn't work out. 2016, Baylor hires Matt Rule. Obviously, Matt Rule left to go to the NFL. 2019, Knicks fired David Fizdale, worst Knicks coach of my lifetime, as we know. We don't really have to talk about that. 2022, Cubs signed Cody Bellinger. Turned out to be a good free agent signing for them, and then they trade him to the Yankees. 2023, Dylan Harper commits to Rutgers. Turned out that Harper's team was a disappointment. 2022, Rams claim Baker Mayfield. I remember that. And then he resurrected his career as Sean McVay, and then he ended up on the Bucs. More. 2021, Miami fires Manny Diaz. Talked about that already. And then they hired Cristobal. 2013, the Yankees signed Carlos Beltran. Obviously, that was the same day they lost Cano. But Beltran turned out to be a pretty good Yankee, and then they traded him to Texas. 2015, South Carolina hires Will Muschamp. I forget how long he was there for, but he was there for a little bit. 2021, the Flyers fire Alain Vigneault. Alain Vigneault hasn't had a coaching job since. 2012, Red Sox find Koji Uehara. Koji Uehara was a good Red Sox. 2022, Morocco upsets Spain in World Cup round of 16. I remember that. 2017, Arkansas hires Chad Morris. That turned out to not be a good hiring. 2022, Titans fired GM John Robinson. And then that led to them firing Vrabel. 2024, Rangers extend Igor Shesterkin. Debatable at this point because the Rangers flopped last year. And this year they've been very up and down. So, I mean, probably the right move because he's the guy. 2013, Red Sox signed Mike Napoli. Really big help to their 2013 World Series team. I'll re-sign Mike Napoli. 2023, Diamondbacks signed Eduardo Rodriguez. That was a big free agent deal at the time. 2018, Red Sox resigned Nathan Eovaldi. But what they missed on this day, December 6th, the San Francisco Giants signed Arson Judge. Oh wait, no, they didn't. That was a big one. You know the story on this podcast. I almost had an emergency show the night of Arson Judge, and I was gonna, and then ultimately it turned out to be a fake report, or not fake, but false news. And the Yankees and the Giants both came out and denied it. And that was the lowest point of John Heyman's career. And obviously the next day, J.P. Morosi comes out and said that he re-signed with the Yankees. So, yeah, on this day in 2022, on December 6th, the San Francisco Giants signed Arson Judge. That had to be thrown in there. I'm surprised that wasn't even in there. And then December 7th, obviously, that was yesterday, on this day in 2022, Yankees re-signed Aaron Judge on a 9-year, $360 million deal. Biggest contract in franchise history by the Yankees. Obviously, we talked about the Arson Judge story just now. And I remember I opened the show with Aaron Judge re-signing. On the next day, and that December 6th was a dark day, a lot of emotions, but luckily it was only a couple of minutes of emotions, and then everybody came out and said, no, that didn't happen. 2019, Ole Miss hires Lane Kiffin. Obviously, now off to LSU. 2019, Florida State hires Mike Norvell, who I'm surprised is still their coach. 2022, the Padres signed Xander Bogaerts, so they signed him the same day as Judge got re-signed. That was a big free agent class that year. And then next year was Ohtani. 2016, Yankees signed Aroldis Chapman after they traded him that summer to the Cubs. 2017, Tennessee hires Jeremy Pruitt. Obviously not their coach right now. 2016, Oregon hires Willie Taggart. And then Taggart went to Florida State and was a flop. 2016, Cubs acquire Wade Davis as they went out and traded for the former Royal to replace Aroldis Chapman. 2024, Giants signed Willie Adames. That was a big free agent deal last year. 2022, Louisville hires Jeff Brom. Obviously still there. 2013, Auburn wins SEC championship. That was their dream season after the Iron Bowl. And then they beat Georgia in the SEC title game. And then they made the Natty and lost to Jameis Winston in Florida State. In 2020, White Sox acquire Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn was good for the White Sox, and then he kind of fell off a cliff. And then today, December 8th, 2017, Angels signed Shohei Ohtani. That was a big deal. 2024, Mets signed Juan Soto to a 15-year, $765. I'm surprised that wasn't number one. Obviously, Yankees lose out on Juan Soto to the Mets, and we just talked about that. And ultimately, the Mets were a disappointment. Yankees kind of were too, but still made the playoffs in spite of losing Juan Soto. 2012, Johnny Manziel wins the Heisman Trophy. That was his dream year. He went and beat Alabama in at Denny Bryant, so that was his Heisman moment. 2012, Dodgers signed Zach Greinke. 2018, Kyler Murray wins Heisman Trophy. That was a big deal. 2020, Eagles named Jalen Hurts starting quarterback. And look at him now, Super Bowl champion. 2013, Matt Prater sets then record with 64-yard field goal. I remember that. He was on the Broncos. And that was a Bronco home game, too. 2017, Oregon hires Mario Cristobal. That was a big hire at the time, then they lose him to Miami. 2019, Missouri hires Eli Drinkwitz. So he's still the coach there, and that turned out to be a good hire. 2015, Cubs signed Ben Zobrist. He was a big free agent ad for the Cubs, who won the World Series that year. 2020, Michigan Ohio State got canceled. Is that because of COVID? That's right, got canceled because of COVID cases with Michigan. And then 2019, Arkansas hired Sam Pittman, who obviously is not their coach. All right, so there you have it for on this day. Now we'll move on to the news and notes for today. The biggest story of the weekend, of course, is the Achilles injury to Daniel Jones. He's out for the year. I think the Colts are done. Riley Leonard is a downgrade from the way Daniel Jones played this year. And plus, the Colts were probably overrated to begin with because they had a bunch of easy games and all their stats were against the Titans pretty much. And now it's fair to wonder if they should franchise tag Daniel Jones or not, because this was the biggest problem to him. He's an injury-prone quarterback that's not consistent. And now he's out for the season. And that's unfortunate for Daniel Jones and the Colts. And he's going to be done for the season. And I saw that injury happen on the spot. It didn't look good. And he's supposed to be ready for the start of next season. So honestly, if I'm the Colts, I would not franchise tag Daniel Jones. And plus, you saw what happened with the Giants. So I would not do that. Have him play on the tag for 40-something million. That's way too much money. If anything, I would just take a chance with like Mac Jones, who played admirably well with the 49ers this year. Or even take a chance on your number 5 overall pick from a couple years ago, Anthony Richardson. Trey Hendrickson out 6 weeks, undergo core muscle surgery, so he's done for the year. And then Shane Steichen actually said not playing Anthony Richardson. He won't be activated off IR this week, so maybe at the end of the year. And then Zach Ertz tore his ACL, so he's out for the season. That's a blow for Washington. And then Jaden Daniels went to the medical tent for an elbow injury. Wayne Morris had a knee injury against the Texans. I think he got injured on the first play, if I'm not mistaken, last night. Tyrod Taylor left the Jets game due to a groin injury, and then we had to see Brady Cook. If Tyrod was in there, that game's more competitive. DK Metcalf spent the night in the hospital as he experienced stomach pains after the game. The Bengals cut third-round wide receiver from 2024, Jermaine Burton, after being suspended on Sunday. And then the tag for Daniel Jones would be $46 million, which would be insane. Winter meetings is heating up. That started last night. The Pirates made an offer for Kyle Schwarber as they extended a 4-year deal, almost certainly worth more than $100 million. If they're going to go out and be big spenders like this, they got to keep Paul Skeens. Peter Alonso is meeting with two teams, the Orioles and the Red Sox. Nick Paveda's on the trade block for the Padres. I think that's smart by the Padres because he had a career year last year, and I don't think he's as good as his stats said. So that's a smart organization. And then they have some pitching depth in the minors. And maybe they want to re-sign Michael King. And maybe they sign somebody else. The Tigers' interest on Alex Bregman is low after being heavily linked last offseason, so they see a declining player there. Framber Valdez met with the Giants, the Mets, and the Orioles at the GM meetings last month. I think that's a Padre possibility too. So was Skubal. Can't rule out Skubal with the Padres. That would be a classic Padres move to get him. 4 players ineligible in 2028: Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Gary Sheffield, and Fernando Valenzuela, El Toro. They will not be on the next era committee ballot after receiving less than 5 votes. In the contemporary baseball era committee elected Jeff Kent to the Baseball Hall of Fame. The Red Sox are also interested in Ketel Marte, and it's good the Red Sox are interested in all these offensive weapons because that's what let them down against the Yankees in the playoffs. And then they addressed pitching so far with the Sonny Gray trade. They do need more pitching, obviously, to go with Crochet and Gray and Balo, but they need to look at some offense too. The Yankees never offered Devin Williams, as Cashman says team didn't get call from agent before Mets signing. And they shouldn't have. He was really bad for them last year. Like, good riddance. Sonny Gray's rep respond after Brian Cashman made comments about Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray started this feud. And then, so Cashman says when he was with the A's, he was telling our minor league video coordinator, "You got to get me over to the Yankees. Tell Cash, get me over to the Yankees. I want out of Oakland. I want a championship." And then Cashman said that after his first full year in New York, that's when he told me he never wanted to be here. He hates New York. This is the worst place. He just sits in his hotel room. And then the agent. So Brian is trying to make people believe I told Sonny to, and Cashman lie to the minor league video guy to get Sonny to the Yankees, even though per Cashman, Sonny did not want to be on the Yankees to subsequently somehow help Sonny's free agency. This makes zero sense. Further, the words "I want out of Oakland" have never said by Sonny. He loved his time with the A's. But yeah, Sonny Gray was probably the pitching version of Jacoby Ellsbury in terms of worst acquisitions of my lifetime for the Yankees. He just was not a good fit. I mean, Devin Williams is up there now, obviously too, but yeah, Sonny Gray can go f off. So Shader Sanders is the QB1 for the rest of the season, as he should be. Peter Yan is the UFC champ. Is the bantamweight contender gets revenge. Dethrones Merab the Valashvili after UD win at UFC 323. Matt Campbell's contract, 8 years, $70.5 million. Redshirt freshman Texas quarterback Trey Owens enters the transfer portal. James Franklin is bringing back Brent Pryce, defensive coordinator, after getting fired in September. What? Notre Dame has playoff clause in 2026. Fighting Irish are guaranteed college football playoff spot if ranked in top 12 next season. What? You spoiled ass team. And talk about spoiled. They blast the ACC. Pete Bivacqua says permanent damage has been done to a relationship. And then wide receiver coach Will Hall got promoted to head coach of Tulane. And then Bivacqua says the college football playoff was stolen. That's just, and then they backed themselves out of a bowl game. Honestly, that's sore loser talk coming from their AD. They back out of the bowl game. They're acting like a sore loser, spoiled fucking team. And they've always been spoiled. You know what this is like? This is like somebody backing out of the NIT after not making the NCAA tournament. That's what that's like. And Notre Dame is just going to stick out. We're Notre Dame. We belong in the playoff. But unfortunately, the teams you beat were overrated. And Alabama's Alabama, unfortunately. And listen, I do think Notre Dame belongs, but they're acting like sore losers. That's my problem. And then Jim Phillips had a response. And then Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, the University of Notre Dame is an incredibly valued member of the ACC, and there is tremendous respect and appreciation for the entire institution. With that said, when it comes to football, we have a responsibility to support and advocate for all 17 of our football playing members in the institution, and I stand behind our conference efforts to do just that leading up to the College Football Playoff Committee selection on Sunday. At no time it was suggested by the ACC that Notre Dame was not a worthy candidate for the inclusion of the field. We are thrilled for the University of Miami while understanding and appreciating the significant disappointment of Notre Dame players, coaches, and program. So they kind of defended Notre Dame, but this is really a Alabama doesn't belong there thing. And then Nick Saban calls for a change, and he points to devastating choice to leave Notre Dame out of the playoff. Well, it's funny that Saban says that because his team got in his team getting in is why Notre Dame's out. Steve Kerr says Kuminga's DNP is private as he's not willing to discuss why Kuminga logged 0 minutes against the Bulls. He's getting traded. They hate Kuminga. It's the worst kept secret in the NBA. The Heat have discussed the John Morant trade. Militao is out 3 to 4 months, so that's a bad loss for Real Madrid. There's a lot of people, Shader Standers, ass kissers that are sticking their chests out because he outplayed Tennessee's Cam Ward. But you lost. You fucking lost. Who cares? Bills fans were booing in that snow game yesterday, but ultimately they won. And then Mark Stein reports that Giannis would eye contenders. There's strong belief league-wide that Giannis would want to play for the Knicks if he was traded. I think the Knicks can win it all without him. I really do. Unpopular opinion, but if I certainly feel that way. But if they don't win this year, then you trade for him in the summer. That's why I say Giannis Knicks to me is a summer trade if they don't win it this year. And if they trade for him this year or in the summer, that tells you that the Knicks think that they don't believe that Jalen Brunson could be the best guy on a championship team. That's how I look at it. Jameis Winston says that Jackson Dart is a superstar as he hypes up the rookie during the bye week. Jimmy Butler is available against the Bulls. Steve Kerr says that Draymond and Horford remain out on a second night of a back-to-back. SGA didn't play against the Jazz with the left elbow bursitis. And that is it for the news and notes. Last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. So the one that jumped out to me the most, this is a hard one. But now that I think about it, it's not really that hard. I'm going to lay the 8 with the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Suns. Obviously, no Devin Booker, no Jalen Green. I just don't think this is competitive. And why is it 8? So I'm going to lay the 8 with Minnesota against the Phoenix Suns for my best bet of the day. So there you have it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything. We'll get to everything tomorrow. Hopefully we can get to the NHL, what we learned this year. So I hope you guys have a great day, everyone.